All right, here we go. Episode 8 of
The Handbag Husband.
The Handbag Husband. Yay! Now, one of the biggest talking points about Hermès, at least that usually draws my attention, our attention, I guess. Most people's attention, is whether or not Hermès is worth it. And yes, of course, their products are expensive. And yes, as far as leathers go, they are pretty stunning, especially with their bags and their leather goods. It's all pretty amazing, right? But the question is it worth the hype? Is it worth all that effort that is necessary to be able to get them? I mean, especially in the world where there's like alternatives like Chanel and Louis Vuitton and Goyard, et cetera, et cetera. There's all very good leather materials and products and bags out there. But what makes Hermès unique and what makes it actually worth the hype? At least if I was to say, is it worth the hype or not? Yeah, from my perspective.
Yeah, sure.
So I think in this video, what we're going to talk about is what makes Hermès so unique, so special, and so worth it, at least in our opinion. Because in a world where the wife likes other bags, that's a world without the handbag husband. So now, before we get to the video, two things. First is that, if you notice, I'm wearing the same shirt as in the last video because we're filming on the same day where we did an unboxing from our first US Hermès boutique of what we got. And we got some nice stacks of things here. If you want to see what's inside of them, go to the video. I'll put a link up here. Also, if you like these videos, if you like the content, if you like the Hermès bag arm candy, and I'm talking about the bags, of course. If you like what you see and you like the content, you like what we have to say, or at least think it's interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe because it does really help the channel, and we are so thankful for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But also because you get notifications when our newest videos come out on Wednesdays, or possibly, maybe, potentially, sometime in between. All right, now let's get to it. So there's a couple different ways you can look at is an Hermès bag or Hermès in general worth it. But I think we're really going to specifically be talking about bags in this section because there's a value is something that is really kind of personal. People think about the value of a bag in a variety of different ways, and I think from the husband's perspective, from my perspective,
I guess all with any luxury stuff, any.
Sure. Yeah.
Diamonds.
Yeah.
Shoes.
Or with anything.
Watches, wine.
Yeah.
Whiskeys,
Yeah.
houses, everything. Yeah.
I mean, I have like jewelry from my grandmother that's not really worth anything. If you took it to sell it, no one would want to buy it. But is it valuable to me? Yes, absolutely it is. So there are things. Value is kind of a very slidey scale, individual, subjective thing. But I think one thing that you can be sort of objective about with the handbags from Hermès, and from a husband's perspective, because a lot of times it comes down to dollars and cents for us.
If you want to hear about how to convince your husband.
Yeah, we got a video about how to convince your husband. Yeah, and this is one of those aspects of it, and I'm sure we'll get deeper into it. But it's the fact that there is a monetary value. There is a real value to it, and I am legitimately going to put up a post here saying this is not financial investment advice for this one because it's not, and I want to put up a slide, so we're going to slide for that, but this is not financial advice, right? It's in fact probably pretty bad advice. But from our side, you can see, and there are people who have done research on it, primarily baghunter.com. That's where I got some of this stuff from.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. But they had a lot of information about what the investment in a bag would look like. So if you had bought a bag, how it continues to grow in value over time. And those numbers actually look pretty good. They took a survey over the last 35 years, ending in 2015. And according to Bag Hunters, and I'll put the link up here somewhere, the S&P 500 gained by 8.7% on average. Gold gained by 1.5%. Birkin bags, specifically from Hermès, 14.2%. So, there definitely is some growth there in value.
But is it gonna burst?
I mean, that's the same with anything. Anything could literally burst, but
Correct.
I mean, I think that over the history, especially since the beginning of the 2000s, it really has continued to grow pretty consistently.
Sure.
So, I mean, I'm not saying you should buy them as an investment. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that if you did buy them, they continue to grow in value. So
Sure.
if you needed to get rid of them, and you just have to look online, right? If you go to any of the major websites, the resellers, the legit resellers, or maybe even not the legit ones, I mean, you see the price of any bag is astronomically higher than what someone had bought it at retail. In fact, there is even companies at this point who basically buy high-end bags, a Crocodile, Hermès, Birkin, and there's one specifically that bought it. They bought it for like $52,000. And they basically cut that up into shares, 2,000 shares and then sold each share to people who buy a piece of it for $26.25 a share at starting. Yeah. So you figure if that bag is going to go up, then those shares you can sell them and buy them as you want. And it's kind of sound ridiculous previously, but they do it with art, like that masterwork people. You can buy a Picasso. You don't actually own a piece of the Picasso, but you own a portion of the value of that Picasso, and they sell it. So again, I'm not saying this is a great investment, but what I am saying is that there are people who are investing in them, and they have reasons for doing it. And, I don't know. I think that's up to someone's own personal risk preference, whether they want to do it or not. But the point is that it does have value to it. All right, next up. I think another way you can look at it as far as value goes is the aesthetic appeal. And I think that this is something you might have a little more input on it than I do, is that they're nice bags. I mean, they're just nice to look at. They have an aesthetic, classic feel to them that will never, ever, ever go out of style. If you see someone who's in their 70s and they're carrying around their bag from the 1970s, it still looks good. It still looks cool. You're like, that lady had style back then. She's got style now. So I think that there's a value in that as well. Having something that will always be able to go with something, whatever generation, whatever time you're in, or you could pass along.
I guess honestly, if you look at the luxury handbags, there are not that many options. So I think that's one way to go about it too, and it seems like to be the name that it pops up very often.
Yeah, and also Hermes has a very specific design language that really can't be duplicated without having kind of a negative connotation to it. I guess that's how we'll say that. So I think that having an original Hermes, piece is kind of something that really ties together a collection as all together, and part of that is because of the longevity of it. You can keep it in your collection and use it many times, and as it gets beat up, it looks even better in many cases. And also the quality of the bags, I mean, they're just good quality. You feel them, you're like, oh, this is something that's gonna stick around for a long time. It's not gonna fall apart, the zippers are not gonna fly off, the latches aren't gonna break, and of course if you abuse them, they do.
We haven't experienced any of those yet.
And then last, and I think this is something that is sort of overlooked until you start really having enough bags that it becomes a situation, is the corporate legacy, right? The thing is that the brand is very well known, but they also have a structure that allows you to go to any Hermes anywhere in the world, and you kind of know what you're going to get. You know the quality is going to be the same. The level of service is going to be roughly the same. How the game is played is roughly the same. I like that it's one place that you can go and you can get a variety, many, many, many leather goods, and it's all going to be consistently good throughout the time. Now, you may not be able to buy something every time, but when you do get something, it's going to be consistently good quality.
But do you think by Hermes having expanding many stores, do you think the quality is going to go down? I
don't think so. I think what's going to happen is that no one's going to get bags. Right? Like, you're going to have many stores, but the same number of bags to spread it over, and some stores are just not going to get anything. Do you think that the quality is going to go down because they're expanding the bag?
I feel like we have not experienced Hermes long enough to say about that. So yeah, just wondering.
I think one thing you could base it on though is that you see bags from the past still kind of maintaining their value. It's not like,
I guess I'm not talking about value. I'm talking about quality wise.
Well, the quality is related to the value. No, you don't think that you think that if quality dropped like some other brands, which we're not going to mention here, but if quality dropped on those,
and they raised the price,
and they raised the price too,
buying.
Okay, that's fair.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's a fair point. I don't really have a response to that one, but I like the fact that it's one large structure, kind of like Rolex again. Oh, I've not watched today. Kind of like Rolex, or kind of like kind of like Rolex, or kind of like Patek. Like, if you need something fixed on your Hermes bag, they will send it back and get it fixed, right? Unless it's like so horribly irrepaired that it just, it went through like a forest fire. It's not gonna work. There's just ashes. You send it back to them, it's not gonna work. But if you have any like reasonable amount of damage to it, they're gonna fix that. Whereas other companies might just be like, oh, we'll replace it for you. Or, it's unfixable, just buy a new one, etc. Hermes is like, oh, let's figure out if we can actually get this fixed. And we've seen it, right? We've seen where they do that. Yeah. So ultimately the question is it worth it? That's where we started off this whole video. And I guess, what do you think?
It's not worth it. Economically, emotionally, to me, it's not worth it.
Why? Can you extrapolate on that?
I think it's probably because the first two bags that we got, it was too easy. We didn't put any effort in to get the two quarter bags that we got.
I mean, aside from traveling 10,000 miles.
But we were not expecting to get any
aside from getting the gumption up to go in and ask for it,
sure.
which was a big deal for that first bag.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then now the expectation almost like the bar is too high, and now like every time you go in, you expect, oh, there's a chance that I might get a bag, and then you're not getting it. It's like, oh, sad, you know, or maybe one bag is enough. But it's never like that. It's like, oh, I'm not, like you. I feel like I don't know if you remember, but I have said that before. It's like, hey, I only need one Hermès bag, and then that's probably it. I don't know if you remember that.
You know, having one bag definitely solves a lot of problems, right? It brings its own problems along because you're using it a lot. It's going to get beaten up. It's going to get used.
Yeah.
It's going to get worn, which I personally like.
Sure.
But having one bag solves a lot of problems. Having many bags just creates
more
it's just more work, right? It eventually just turns into
It's like when you go
labor.
into a gelato stores, too many flavors to choose from, and you take forever. If it's just like 3 of them, oh, you know what you want.
Yeah. Or like here in California, In-N-Out, it's an easy choice what you buy.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a hamburger.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a hamburger, or you're gonna get. They're like, do you want cheese or do you want cheese? That's the only selection you have.
Sure.
Whereas if you go to something else, if you go to like a Carl's Jr. or a similar place, I mean, they're gonna be like, do you want burritos? Do you want hamburgers? Do you want hot dogs?
Not ads.
Yeah. Not subscribe. Not
sponsored.
Not sponsored, but hey, Carl's Jr. In-N-Out, I'll take it. I'll take it for sure. I think for me, it is worth it. It's worth it because one, when we do get the bag.
Oh, you had so much fun going into the store. So I mean, yeah, of course it's gonna be worth it for you.
So one is that it's worth it. I guess maybe is not the right way. I think it's very satisfying to play the game, to go through the steps, to have losses and have setbacks. Like it's the drama, right? Like I like the whole novella effect of it, right? Like I like, oh, we're gonna get it. Are they? Aren't they? Kind of thing. And then some days it pays off and some days it doesn't. And maybe I just kind of have like a treasure hunter mindset in general.
Yeah.
Where day that 1001 might be the day that we find the treasure.
Sure.
And I feel the same way as there. So it's that optimism. Maybe it's even just that optimism of the process during the process that I like the most. So
yeah.
And also seeing you get a bag, seeing you feel happy about it, seeing you kind of fret and anxiousness over them.
Oh,
I like that too.
So much anxiousness about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my conclusion, I think it's worth it. So I think it's worth it financially. Not that you should invest with them, but there's a financial, I guess, what is your time worth? But there is a financial advantage to it that if you buy it, you could sell it for more than what you would buy it for pretty much at any time in history. Number two is that it's nice looking. It looks good.
I agree on that one. Yeah.
It looks good by itself.
Yeah.
It looks even better with you. I like that. And then number three is that there's a structure to fix them. It's a structure to maintenance them. There's a whole structure to be a part of, a culture, if you will, to be a part of corporately that I like. All right, so that is it for episode number 8. Whether or not Hermès is worth all the hype. I think we have a different opinion there. And that's okay. Also, I'd love to see what you all think. Obviously, if you're watching this, you probably think that it's worth the hype, or maybe you're at least wondering, is it worth the hype? And I'd love to see what your comments are. Put them down below if you think it's actually worth it, or if it might be partially worth it, or half worth it, or I don't know. You just put it down there. I'd love to see what you all have to say because we have our own little fishbowl that we live in here, kind of literally. But the world is different from us, and I'd love to see those views as well. So I think that's it for us today. Watch the other videos if you want to watch the unboxing, if you want to figure out how to convince your husband, if you want to know what we would and wouldn't buy. We got tons of those videos, and we got so many more coming out here moving forward. So, but other than that, I think that's it for today. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.